It's actually a quite interesting paradox. You have the biggest crypto asset, Bitcoin, 60% of the market, and there's almost nothing built on it. If you think about value, right? It's very little. I think the main reason is because it's really hard to build on Bitcoin.
Yep.
Now there's a lot of people building a lot of infrastructure. Now we still have to see it actually play out, but I think over the next 4 years, this Bitcoin layer 2 market, just because there's so much liquidity, if you then add up a layer where it becomes easy to build upon, this can go really, really fast. I think 4 years from now, you'll see this whole Bitcoin application market absolutely explode.
So yeah, to start, I guess maybe we just kick off with what Botanix is building, why it's so important for not just Bitcoiners, but all of crypto.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll even go beyond that, why it's important for the world.
Yeah.
So I think when you look about the whole crypto space, you have Bitcoin. I absolutely believe Bitcoin is the winning money. It's the best money ever made. It is the most decentralized, most secure, and it's proven in time by now. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of applications. You think about a decentralized financial system, DeFi, that have reached product market fit, and they're built on virtual machines. So I think as a second part, the EVM has won out. So Bitcoin is the winning money. EVM is, in my mind, the winning virtual machine that allows for a financial system to run on blockchains. And I wanted to bring that to Bitcoin. So what Botanix is a layer 2 EVM on Bitcoin. We're only purely connected to Bitcoin. You use Bitcoin as the gas fees. So think you're transacting on Ethereum, but then instead of seeing Ethereum, you see Bitcoin.
Yep.
And we inherit the Bitcoin security, the most secure blockchain there is, to basically create a full infrastructure layer that can power a global financial system. We're actually here in El Salvador, so when you think about stablecoins and the third world, like stablecoins are helping billions of people basically actually save money. And Paulo, the CEO of Tether, is very big on that. Like there's still 3 billion people unbanked. With stablecoins, you can bank them. Now, it would be way better if those stablecoins are on a layer 2 EVM on Bitcoin. Like what if the stablecoins eventually become your funnel into Bitcoin? That's how I think the future will play out. 50 years from now, Bitcoin is the winning money. Everything will run on Bitcoin. Yeah. And you use a layer 2 EVM to actually have different tokens, have different NFTs, and basically have the infrastructure layer for a financial system and global trade, using Bitcoin as a money.
Let's talk about that kind of thesis around layer 2s for Bitcoin because, obviously you've been working on this for a while, but it seems like that it's a meta that's catching on now as Bitcoin kind of moves into its next phase of like, cat's out of the bag, we're not going back. It's being embraced now by a bunch of, the BlackRocks of the world, the countries, sovereign wealth funds potentially of the world. So talk about maybe why the excitement is there now in terms of this being a key differentiator and kind of when you kicked off with Botanix, why you wanted to build it.
So let me start with the first thing. It's actually a quite interesting paradox. You have the biggest crypto asset, Bitcoin, 60% of the market, and there's almost nothing built on it. If you think about value, right? It's very little. I think the main reason is because it's really hard to build on Bitcoin. So when you look back 2016, 2017, most people actually went outside of Bitcoin and say like, oh look, we have Ethereum here. It's super easy to build on Ethereum. I write some Solidity, boom, I have a smart contract. Try to do that on Bitcoin. It's almost impossible. And so now we're in a world, or at least 2 years ago, we were in a world that you had Bitcoin with nothing on there, and then all of the applications were built outside of Bitcoin. But that doesn't make any sense, right? You have, especially in the TradFi market, you would say liquidity begets liquidity.
Yep.
Where the biggest liquidity pool is, that's where the opportunity is. But that somehow didn't play out in the crypto world. And the reason is, it's because it's really hard to build on there. Now I think when I started 2 years ago, 2 years and a half ago, I basically put together this thesis. I think Bitcoin is the winning money. I think EVM is the winning virtual machine. Let's bring that together. Let's bring the applications back to Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. Now I think, there's much more people building on Bitcoin. I think when I started 2.5 years ago, there was almost no one. Yep. Now there's a lot of people building a lot of infrastructure. Now we still have to see it actually play out, but I think over the next 4 years, this Bitcoin layer 2 market, just because there's so much liquidity, if you then add up a layer where it becomes easy to build upon, this can go really, really fast. I think 4 years from now, you'll see this whole Bitcoin application market absolutely explode.
At the same time, I guess because of that opportunity growing, it's also attracted a lot of other projects trying to do similar things. So I guess when you differentiate kind of Botanix versus, the stacks of the world, the cores of the world, it seems like a lot of people are trying to do the same thing. And by that I just mean capitalize on whatever opportunity might exist in a growing market that is Bitcoin. So how do you kind of differentiate what Botanix is building?
Let's do it in multiple different ways. Let's first differentiate technology-wise.
Yep.
I think technology-wise, Botanix is uniquely connected to Bitcoin. So you have a lot of others that are either having their more like layer 1 design or like use an Ethereum layer 2 rollup as their tech stack. We are purely connected to Bitcoin. We leverage really how Bitcoin is built to build our layer 2. And we are fully EVM equivalent, meaning you can now copy paste anything you have on Ethereum and the whole thing works. Actually, we take the EVM as a black box and we integrate that in our layer 2. That's the first differentiator. We're fully EVM equivalent, right? It becomes super easy to have anything you have on Ethereum, you deploy it, and so it takes like 5 seconds, so there's no technology barrier anymore to suddenly have your application on a layer 2 on Bitcoin. That's the EVM equivalence. The second is we take a little bit a different approach in terms of our layer 2 design. For Ethereum, you have all the applications that need censorship resistance, that need decentralization, like DeFi. They built that on the Ethereum base layer because Ethereum is very decentralized. That means that the rollups can actually be very centralized, right? If you want really high speed, you can build that on rollups. In Vitalik's latest blog, he also said that when you think about DeFi, you need censorship resistance. How is a global financial system going to work if you have a single node running in one country that can suddenly block all the rest of the world from different countries? And we've already seen Swift being weaponized, and so you want that financial system to run on a decentralized layer. On Ethereum, you can do that on an Ethereum, the base layer. On Bitcoin, you don't have that. So I strongly believe that Bitcoin needs a decentralized layer too. And that's where we differentiate from rollups. So there's other people, for example, building Bitcoin rollups. They're a single node. We start with 15 decentralized sequencers on day 1, spread around 15 different jurisdictions. So we will have a certain censorship resistance from day 1. So EVM equivalence and decentralization is how we differentiate, basically.
Yeah, from a tech perspective, very important. But I suppose also in terms of a long-term vision, you and I were chatting before this, we're both Harvard guys. It does seem interesting that, like, I don't know about you, but it seems like there was not really an interest from a lot of people coming from that background before, but things very quickly shifting now. I guess what made it kind of interesting to you at Harvard Business School to want to take this plunge? Why build on Bitcoin, and why did that kind of become, what was the light bulb moment for you?
Yeah, it actually happened before Harvard. I was actually living in Saudi Arabia at the moment. I had Bitcoin already seen in my cryptography classes. I have a cryptography background. I didn't see the full ideology and the full vision and the thesis. But when I was living in Saudi, I traveled around the Middle East. I saw hyperinflation happening in Lebanon. Saw people get their bank accounts seized, and that's when it really hits you. Like, you just see families getting destroyed from one day until to the next day. All their life savings, just like the government says, oh, it's mine now. Then you realize, wait, our governments can actually do that as well. Like, you see that slowly playing out. Like, if you would want to withdraw $20,000 from your bank account, your bank will probably block it. It's not your money, it's the bank's money. You start to realize that bigger vision of Bitcoin, and so that's when I said, okay, I want to start a company in Bitcoin. I need to help this forward as fast as possible because the world actually needs it. There's billions of people that actually need this today. Then I applied to Harvard Business School. I already wanted to start a Bitcoin company, which is then very interesting because out of 1,000 people, I was absolutely the only one who even cared about Bitcoin. I was like so much the outsider. I was laughed at, basically. I was like, yeah, what is this guy doing? And I was like, ignored. Actually, already now some people are like, oh, you got so lucky. But yeah, it was a very interesting time. But yeah, so that's where I decided, okay, I need to build in this. And it's actually very interesting because you can use a lot of traditional business rules and apply that to the crypto space.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think increasingly, we're seeing more projects try and do that. And you and I were talking about network effects and how you want to align them. I would also point out that Botanix doesn't have a token yet, but I think a lot of the reason as to why people like you were drawn to this is there is a network effect and value capture of Bitcoin because that's the asset that accrues the value. Some other Bitcoin layer 2s or projects have launched tokens before, and now have kind of, I guess, maybe lost some steam or maybe don't have the same incentive mechanisms that they can pull like you guys can now. So how do you kind of look at that opportunity, and what's in mind when it comes to maybe what incentive layers you'd want to pull with your guys' project?
Yeah, I always think we've seen a few launches with tokens. I think majority has gone to zero. I do believe in the future a lot of companies will no longer IPO, they will actually launch their tokens. I think tokens is a way better version of stocks. However, there's always some downsides that a lot of people always underestimate. Yep. I mean, the good side is anyone can invest. It's very fair. If you launch a token, anyone in the world can invest, and it's a very, very fair way, and it democratizes basically the investment world, right? I think nobody likes the VCs. They have an edge, they have this closed bubble, so everybody would like to invest. But there's some downsides as well. Suddenly you're a public company, and suddenly everybody looks at your token prices. Besides that, I think considering there's so many scams, it's very hard for people to know what's actually true. And I do see what the Bitcoiners say there as well. Like a lot of the tokens take away from the value that Bitcoin brings. If I'm new to the space and I don't know anything about the space, you see Bitcoin and you see all these rest, and you kind of think they are all very similar, even though they're actually completely different. Yep. Tokens act more like stocks and equities, while Bitcoin acts like money. And so they're vastly different, but for an outsider, it's really hard to differentiate different aspects.
Well, that fragmentation also is a little bit annoying for sometimes, like you said, maybe leeching on and taking some of the value away. We saw that with the Ethereum kind of scaling roadmap. A lot of people are very mad at how quickly those L2s launched, and they all, not all of them, but a lot of them have their own tokens. And people are wondering what that means for the base layer, Ethereum, and what it means for that token price. And so, there's a lot of debate right now around that. But I do think it is interesting, and thank you, by the way, for scooping up a Coinage NFT, because our model is built similarly in terms of have the value accrue to everyone via those NFTs. But when you look at maybe how quickly this will happen, in terms of the market size and market opportunity we opened with, what do you see happening now in 2025 to really start to lever up, I suppose, everything that you're excited about? Like, how quickly can this happen? We're here in El Salvador, there's a bunch of people who are talking about it, but like, how quickly do we see it actually play out?
I think very, very fast. So the people who have been following us probably know we announced Chainlink a few months ago. So for the first time ever, the biggest oracle with probably the majority market share is coming to Bitcoin using Botanix. There's quite a few others. Think about all your big Ethereum projects now deploying on a Bitcoin layer 2. I cannot say a lot, but there's a lot in the works. And so what if you have the whole ecosystem, the whole DeFi ecosystem there, and all the basic building blocks, your favorite projects that you're used to already using with your MetaMask wallet, you're already used to that, and now you see it actually on Bitcoin. I think this can go really, really fast. Just the user experience is much, much easier. For all the people that have Bitcoin in their cold wallet, right, on their ledger, have never touched it, because like, what are you going to do with it? There's nothing you can do with your Bitcoin today, except for maybe using a risky bridge to then get wrapped Bitcoin and Ethereum and then use it. But most people just keep it in their cold wallet. Yeah. But what if now, suddenly, very easily, from your cold wallet, go on the layer 2 and there's a full ecosystem ready? I think that can go really, really fast. Yeah,
well, I mean, I guess in terms of using the Harvard-branded total addressable market piece, we've heard this before. If you just look at kind of like the size of DeFi on Ethereum versus what is possible on Bitcoin, like you said, just based on the pure number of Bitcoin's dominance being about 60%, it would be a larger market opportunity. Do you look at it like kind of the same way?
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally think that will play out. I think take the TVL of Ethereum DeFi, and I'm probably blanking on the number here, but it's going to be somewhere around 50 billion. Yeah. Ethereum is 1/5 or 1/4 of Bitcoin, I think 1/5 these days. Yeah. So that means the potential DeFi market on Bitcoin layer 2 should be 250 billion. Now, is that going to play out from day 1 to day 2? Of course not. It will take time. Yeah. Because it's a new protocol, people will test it out, and like after a few years, people will trust it, and then we'll get there. But it just means we will go from like almost where we are now, maybe 1 billion or something, to 250. This can go, absolutely really fast.
I wanted to ask you this too, because as a builder in the space, having seen the opportunity for so long, to me, I'm always shocked at kind of how few people still, even after you have the President of the United States launching his own, not necessarily his own, but with his family, World Liberty Financial, a DeFi platform. And you still have people saying, I'm not sure about Bitcoin, I'm not sure about the crypto space. It seems to me wild to see that play out. So I mean, for you as a builder in the space too, does it shock you in terms of how many people still today don't necessarily see the opportunity in what you're building?
Well, two things. The opportunity of what I'm building, yes, I think it's still very contrarian. Although I've actually this internal personal list of I think 10 Botanix assumptions that I think absolutely will play out over the next 20 years. And I would say only probably one or maybe two are generally accepted in the crypto space, meaning I think Bitcoin is the winning money. I think EVM is the winning virtual machine. I think these two are generally quite accepted now. But there's I have 7 others.
What is one of the more controversial ones that people wouldn't be ready for?
Well, the most obvious one is any application on Bitcoin will always be bigger than outside of Bitcoin, just because it's the biggest market cap. It is the biggest liquidity pool. And we've seen that play out in the traditional finance markets for years. And I do believe it is very contrarian. I would say most people in the space wouldn't believe that, just because they have the confirmation bias, right? They've seen the last 5 years, the last 10 years, and there's still no application bigger on Bitcoin than outside of it.
Well,
you get in that sunk cost thinking, but then outside of the crypto space, when you think about more traditional people looking from the outside, they're like, yeah, of course, it's on Bitcoin, well, we'll be way bigger. So it's very interesting.
Well, one of the things that I think is interesting and very hard, I assume, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is that so many people, because it's worked out for them just to hold Bitcoin and have it sit there in their cold wallet, and they accrue value just by doing that it seems like it would be hard or a harder sell to say, hey, look, you should be doing things with your Bitcoin. We've heard the pushback from other people when we talk about Bitcoin layer 2s. They're like, I don't know if I need that. But has that been difficult for you? And what do you envision changing when it comes to the HODL gang, just saying I don't need to do anything with my Bitcoin?
That is by far the thing I hear the most. And I actually absolutely disagree with it. Another very contrarian take. I think when there's demand for something, you will pay for it. I think Andreas Antonopoulos actually had a very good YouTube video. It's why would a deflationary currency ever work? Because everyone's just going to hold their currency. And he says very clearly, no, that's not true. If you want to buy shoes, you're going to buy shoes. If you want to buy an NFT, you're going to buy the NFT. If you want to do something as a human being, you're going to do it. And so if your Bitcoin in your ledger is there and the demand is there, you will do it. I disagree with that. I think people will still keep a lot of Bitcoin on their ledger, on their cold wallet, on the Bitcoin base there, because there's nothing more secure. However, there's a lot of opportunities there, and if you want to buy an NFT, if you want to buy an ordinal, if you want to buy Rune, if you want to trade Bitcoin versus stablecoins, if you want to go completely degen, go 100x leverage on a perp DEX, you're going to do that. It's really the demand that drives it. It's not that, oh, I want to keep this on my ledger. Besides that, one thing that is a lot underestimated, I think, is Bitcoin yield. And a lot of people have talked about it. Even Saylor is using it in his micro strategy. However, there's a very clean version of Bitcoin yield coming. Because if you have a Bitcoin layer 2, all your gas fees are in Bitcoin. All those gas fees accrue back to the stakers of the layer 2. So suddenly you have actual Bitcoin yield. Now, we already saw the demand 4 years ago with BlockFi and a few others offering Bitcoin yield as a centralized company. I think they had $10 billion of demand. And that was a centralized company. Well, this will be an open source, permissionless platform where everyone can read the code. So what if you have actual Bitcoin yield there? That is very easy to understand. Everybody understands, okay, it's Bitcoin gas fees on the second layer. That's where the yield comes from. Very clear, nothing else involved in there. It's pure Bitcoin yield, and I think that will drive a lot of people to actually try it out. If there's one thing you want with Bitcoin is you want more Bitcoin. So it's gonna come.
Well, I think that's maybe a good thing to end on too, because I'm sure maybe you get annoyed by this question by everyone in crypto always asks when token, when airdrop, when launch, when things like that. And so I guess there are things that can be done that can't be done when it comes to, again, the tokenization piece. But it sounds like you're saying that is kind of a core piece of any Bitcoin layer 2 that wants to do this well, that also pleases Bitcoiners, is that make the reward incentive mechanism be paid out in Bitcoin. Something like that.
Yeah, I consider Bitcoin really the money there. So I think from a human perspective, if you go to the store, you want to kind of see that you pay in dollars because you think in dollars, right? And so similarly, I think for a layer 2, paying your gas fees in Bitcoin makes sense if we are on a Bitcoin standard and you're thinking like, oh, this costs that amount of sats or that amount of Bitcoin. It would make sense that you want to see Bitcoin there. So I think longer term, having Bitcoin as the gas fee just makes way more sense from a business perspective. Yeah, token-wise, I always look at Arbitrum. I think they you can question their DAO functionings, but I think their launch was quite well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's been interesting to see it all play out. But I guess just to wrap, Willem, what are you most proud of in building this project in terms of, I guess, applying a lot of the things that you saw work in Ethereum now to Bitcoin? What are you, I guess, most proud of, excited about when it comes to what's to come and how far you've come?
Well, I'm most proud of the team. It's been really, really incredible working with like super smart people. Besides that, I think 2.5 years ago, we believed we had this thesis of Bitcoin and EVM and layer 2s. And we were alone there. I think now 2.5 years later, we saw like a huge hype die down a little bit, but now everyone's building, and I think now it's gonna happen. So I'm like very excited. I'm just like happy that more builders are coming back to Bitcoin. Yeah. Because originally when I went out, I'm gonna be happy the faster we move Bitcoin towards like 8 billion people, get them to understand Bitcoin, get the separation between state and money, and the faster we get there, the more happier I am. So I'm very happy to see way more builders come into the space.
Yeah, no, it's been exciting to watch, and thank you again for sitting down with us and telling us about it. Willem, founder of Things over at Botanix, thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.